Do we have receipt of evidence, in our opinion, on proper notice?
The County Board of Supervisors' August 18th meeting notice and agenda was posted in the Government Center building in 2 places and posted on the county website on Thursday, August 13th, 2026. In addition, on Thursday, August 13th, 2026 at 4:39 p.m., the Office of the County Clerk distributed copies of such notice of meeting to supervisors and media via email.
That constitutes proper notice.
Thank you. We'll have a roll call.
Brad Olson, who I believe is online and will be here soon. Doug Rowdy, Jim Bethke, Pam Garvey, Scott Gilbertson, Adam Jarko, Sharon Kelly, Jeremy Hall, Kim O'Connell, Alice Morris, Jay Luke,
Here.
Francis Duncanson, Russ Arkand,
Here.
Keith Karpinski, and John Bonaprise.
All right, will you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag, of the United States of America. Republic, which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we commence the public hearing, I'll outline the standards of conduct required for these proceedings. This meeting constitutes a limited public forum dedicated to receiving public comments on the specific agenda item before the board. Specifically, the resolution to enact a temporary moratorium on data centers. Speakers are therefore required to confine their remarks to the subject under consideration. If you wish to speak on other topics, there will be an opportunity after this public hearing to make those comments during the public comment portion of the meeting. The board is committed to ensuring that all individuals are able to meaningfully participate. To preserve order and allow the meeting to proceed, conduct that disrupts or interferes with the meeting will not be permitted. Disruptive conduct may include shouting, interrupting, engaging in personal attacks against individuals, directing profane or abusive language at other participants or officials, or otherwise impeding the board's ability to conduct public business. Any individual, whether a speaker or a member of the audience, who becomes disorderly or whose behavior materially disrupts the proceedings may be directed to cease such conduct. If the destructive behavior continues after a warning, the individual will be required to leave the meeting. These actions are taken solely to maintain orderly procedure and will be unrelated to any viewpoint expressed. We appreciate the public's cooperation in adhering to these standards so that this meeting may proceed efficiently and respectfully. We would ask that you hold applause until public hearing. Thank you. And with that, we'll start the public hearing, and some of these names are going to be a little hard to announce here, but we have a Jeff Titus from St. Croix Falls.
I spoke briefly at the hearing at Unity. I've been to the other hearing as well, so I won't take a lot of your time. I just want to point out that there's something that I observed at those meetings. One of them was nobody got up and spoke opposed to the resolution. The only people I've heard that live in the county have spoken up in support of a moratorium, taking our time, learning information, figuring out what's going on, because I think everybody I heard was respectful, and I think everybody I heard talked about the importance of getting all the facts and knowing what's going on. And what I want to point out is my observations. There absolutely is no reason for approving this data center. In other words, there's absolute reason to have the data centers not put in Polk County or even in the state of Wisconsin, in my opinion. Why? There's no benefit at all to the people in the community. Now, data centers might come in here and tell you you benefit because of jobs or benefit because of other things, taxes and what have you, but none of that's true. There is no benefit at all. And once one is built, we have to live, when I speak of we, the county has to live with the consequences. The water usage, they might come in and tell you, oh, we can mitigate that and take care of that. Don't worry about it. The extra electricity, oh, it won't affect anybody's bills in a negative way. Oh, the noise, the extra high power lines that have to be written. All of the things that we've heard about at these hearings, they'll tell you can be mitigated, but they can't. And once the genie's out of the bottle, guess what? You can't put it back in. If these data centers are built, they're just going to be there forever. And I've done research. I've looked at other data centers throughout the country that have been built, and the people that live around them hate them for various reasons, health reasons, noise reasons, all kinds of things. As I say, there's just absolutely no reason that we should have one in Polk County. And a moratorium to be able to look at all the different negative impacts or even positive impacts of what these bring to the community is really important. And I think you guys take your time, make a wise decision. Again, keeping in mind you work for the citizens of Polk County. You guys represent us, and we're counting on you to represent us in a positive way to make sure that good decisions are made. Am I done? Okay, well, I'll give up the mic, but thank you very much for your considerations. I would ask that you put a moratorium on it and make it a long moratorium, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it has to be, to really research this for the data to come out to see what's necessary. Thank you.
Oh, we got Susan. I'm going to say Laughlin from Bone Lake.
Hi, I was at the meeting at Unity High School about a month ago, and there was numerous people that asked Adam Jarko to recuse himself because he has a conflict of interest, and he said he wouldn't. I just ask that if he does vote, he votes for the wishes of the people he represents and not his own clients and his own bank accounts. The other thing is Polk County does not need our water and our natural resources all sucked up by data centers that don't benefit any of the residents of Polk County. That's all, short and sweet.
All right, so much for my asking to hold the applause, but that's all right. Jeffrey Nelson from Balsam Lake Township.
Well, I'm opposed to it because there isn't enough information for me to be able to actually make a choice. There needs to be more transparency. So much more. Thank you.
Margaret Atkins from Bone Lake. Actually, you're supposed to tell us your name and where you're from when you come up here, not me. But...
I'm Margaret Atkins from Bone Lake. So I just want to make sure that Doug Rowdy, who represents us, knows that people in Bone Lake, some of us, are against the data center, so that it's not like, well, nobody ever said anything. So just the water usage. I live near Little Ward Lake, and I have a pond across from Little Ward Lake. The pond already is almost dried up, and Little Ward Lake is really, really low. We haven't had rain. We didn't get a lot of snow. So now you're going to suck all the water off? Don't do that. And so a moratorium is just saying, slow down, learn everything about it before a decision is made. And when I came in, I was looking at the picture representing Boone Lake. Look at all that water, and all of that is beautiful. Where are you going to put the data center picture? Is that going to also be beautiful? I also ask that if anybody has a financial interest and they are in a position to vote for this moratorium, that doesn't seem right if they have a financial interest in a data center coming in.
Next we have Therese Durkin, town of Osceola.
Hi, I'm Therese Durkin. I live in the town of Osceola. I'm going to reiterate what some other people have said. Thanks to all the people who gave public comments at the last meeting. I thought they were beautifully done. And if anyone hasn't had a chance to see them, that would be great. I'm going to reiterate what you just mentioned about recusing yourself with the potential for financial interest. And there's lots of data about concern about people signing NDAs across Wisconsin and the whole country. Microsoft recently has trying to get rid of the NDAs. And I think we should at least at some point be able to ask everybody on the county board specifically, do you have an NDA or not? And if the answer is no, great. And if it's, I can't say, then that's information. And Mr. Jarko, I'm sorry, I'm also going to ask you to recuse from the vote. And if anyone wants to know more about why we're asking, the Hudson Observer has a nice article from July about what happened in the village of Hammond. So, and I'd also ask that the county supervisors also consider influencing him in his decision to do that. Thank you.
All right. I'm going to say Roger. Oh no, there's a lot of letters that can't be read here, but from the town of Eureka, Roger, I think it's Roger, starts with a P.
Yeah.
All right.
I usually don't get up and talk at any of these things, but I just think it makes common sense that we vote on a moratorium. We need to do some environmental impact studies, some where the power grid's going, all of that, what it's doing to our water supply. And I don't have much else to say other than Mr. Jarko, I think you need to be off this. If you have any financial interest, why are you even voting? That's it, just short.
Sir, I apologize. Could you pronounce your last name?
Loretta Chappelle from McKinley.
My name is Loretta Chapel Odin, and I am from McKinley. My husband and I have a small farm in that area, and we don't want to see a data center coming into our county. We have a beautiful little farm where you can still see the stars at night. And now our community, our county, our state, like many other areas, needs to fight against data centers invading our land. The last thing we need is loud water thieving, light polluting data centers anywhere near our town, our county, our state. The strength of the rural America has never come from big industrial footprints. It comes from generations of people, open spaces, local businesses, connection to the land, our beautiful lakes. All of America deserves thoughtful stewardship that doesn't steal farmland, where our essential shared food is grown. The small family farmers' livelihoods, and not data centers that only destroy the environment around them. They harm the health of the people around them. Whoever controls the food and the water controls the masses. Sorry. Let's not allow our own demise and give up control over necessary resources in our county, in our townships, in our state, but especially in Polk County here. Now, I will say that while I added some of my own words in that, this statement was made by Willie Nelson, but I think it totally applies here. We need a moratorium so this can be looked thoroughly into and not rushed upon our communities. Thank you.
October, yeas from Alden.
Hello, I'm October Yates, resident of Alden, Wisconsin, and in favor of the moratorium. Hello, County Board and citizens. My name is October Yates. I'm a proud Polk County resident, and for the last 5 years, I've been a kayak guide on the St. Croix River. As most of you know, the St. Croix River is a national park established in 1968 by the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act. Our former Senator, Gaylord Nelson, from this very county, mind you, fought hard to preserve these waters so the citizens of Wisconsin can enjoy clean, fresh water for generations to come. Anyone who's lived around here has had an experience on the St. Croix River worth sharing. And we as citizens of Polk County take pride in our natural resources. It's even in our town slogans. St. Croix Falls is the city of trails, Amory, the city of lakes, Osceola, a quaint little river town. Outdoor recreation is our identity, whether canoeing, kayaking, hiking, biking, snowmobiling, hunting, or fishing, people come to Polk County to enjoy what we have to offer in these beautiful North Woods. A report from the National Parks showed that $50 million of revenue annually in towns across the St. Croix Valley came from St. Croix River visitors. The park has also provided approximately 45 CUA permits to businesses that operate along the Riverway. Those are tangible jobs and incomes for thousands of residents in this county, and more than any data center could promise to provide. The St. Croix River is already facing threats from development, invasive species, mining operations, climate change. Why add another to the list? Data centers are notoriously bad for freshwater resources and often pollute, misuse, or waste freshwater resources from local aquifers, rivers, lakes. This moratorium is a step in the right direction for our county to say enough is enough. Not one drop from our river. Not one drop will be used to further the agendas of out-of-state billionaires. Not one drop for our sacred water shall be stolen. The St. Croix River is the lifeblood of our county's forests, farms, and economy. So join me in saying, not one drop. Thank you.
Kathy Lathrop from Centuria.
Thank you. My name is Kathy Lathrop, and in the 80s and 90s, I worked at Control Data at the BTC building across from the Dome in downtown Minneapolis. That that building was heated by the equipment in the basement. I was a data telecommunications technician at the time, working on equipment that took up a room that now you can fit in the palm of your hand. I come to you today because I support a forever moratorium on data centers, but a temporary one will do. I do not support the replacement of biological life with a flawed technological man-made remake. We've heard the plans to replace farmland, wildlife, factory workers, firefighters, teachers, and a host of other professions and biological processes with AI technology. A technology that many of its makers say has a potential to destroy all life on Earth, yet is currently being less regulated than a deli ham sandwich. So I talk to you to inject a little more reality into the fairy tale being sold to us. They talk about all the goodies AI centers will bring to the world, but if history has taught us anything, it will be the war industry getting the bulk of those goodies, while the rest of us get the leftovers and the bill. One of AI's biggest backers says his vision is to have AI serve hundreds of millions of people and hundreds of billions of AI agents and robots. Oh, I'm sorry. Most data center operators already have contracts with both the Israeli Defense Force and the US Pentagon. Recently, all Republicans with a few Democrats passed the US-Israeli Defense Cooperation Initiative, essentially handing Israel a piece of US AI sovereignty. How is AI currently helping people? Just ask the seniors I live with, who are trying to get a real person on the phone when AI phone prompts don't include the option they need. One could conclude that many companies like this feature, especially in cases of overcharging customers or ignoring customer requests to end services, allowing them to continue making withdrawals out of customer accounts for services those customers don't want anymore. How has it helped our children? Just ask the teachers dealing with 3 to 5-year-olds, having only 2 hours of screen time a day at home, now exhibiting increased aggressive behaviors, shortening attention spans, and increasing inability to regulate their emotions. Teachers are leaving the profession in droves. Representative Tom Tiffany is running on decreased property tax. Does that mean I'm done? Okay, thank you.
Lindsay Potter from Luck. I think I pronounced it right. Lindsay, looks like Potter from Luck. All right, we'll try Robert Buch from Balsam Lake.
Yeah, it's Robert Beach from Balsam Lake. But anyway, I want to thank the board for having this meeting, letting us speak. Data centers, not enough information, just not. There's a lot of people there that who don't know all the ramifications that can happen with a data center. My questions basically are, one, how long is this moratorium going to be? It's temporary. Is it 6 months, 2 years? Is that something that the board decides somewhere along the line, or whatever the resolution is passed? Second of all, if by some reason we do end up with a data center here, lest these servers only last 4 to 6 years, are we going to get stuck with some 100-acre building after they decide that it's not worth redoing and we're just going to leave and they're going to walk away? So my concern is we do need a lot of time. We do need to make sure that all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, so that everybody really truly understands who we're dealing with, how big this is, where it's going to be, if it all happens. anytime. And I think that's what we don't know is the who, what, and where. So, thank you.
We'll give Lindsay Potter from Luck another chance if they're here. Otherwise, we're gonna keep moving. Madeline Shaw from Osceola.
Hi, I'm Madeline Shaw. I live in East Farmington Township, but close to Osceola. I'm a vegetable and livestock farmer, and I support the moratorium for all the reasons that have been said before. People spoke before me, but a couple of things that I want to recommend are not having anyone on the county board sign any non-disclosure agreements with any data center companies or anyone affiliated with data centers. I received a list of questions that I think would be useful for the board to consider before going ahead with any data center, but I think that as much time as possible should be taken to consider all the available information. But some questions to consider are, do you thoroughly understand what a data center is? Do you understand the different types of data centers, co-location, hyperscale, enterprise, modular? Do you have an accurate, independently sourced data about how much economic benefit a data center actually brings to a community our size, and is there enough money to make it worth it? Have you talked to any other towns, cities, villages, or counties in Wisconsin that have dealt with this kind of land use? Have you asked any of those communities what they wish they'd known before they'd started? Have you visited an operating data center or an active construction site? Are you aware that there are several data center sites within a few hundred miles that you could visit before making any decisions? I think there should be a plan to consult a third party or independent organization for information about all the different impacts of data centers and not solely receive information from companies proposing data centers. Do you have a process for vetting any developer that might approach with a data center proposal? Will it identify the full legal name of any LLC that files an application, its registered agent, when it was formed, and who actually owns it? Do you have a plan for checking whether a registered agent is listed on other LLCs in other communities and whether those companies are still operating? And this also speaks to conflicts of interest. And I believe that anyone on the board who has any relationship with companies that build data centers should recuse themselves from any decisions related to data centers. I guess I'll have more time. Do you have a process for checking whether a developer has ever been sued, fined, or had a project denied, downscaled, or shut down by another municipality? Do you have a plan for requiring references from other communities where the developer has built, and will you actually call those communities? Will you also search for communities that a developer doesn't volunteer as references? A couple other things I want to add is that I think a lot of rural communities have become sacrifice zones and dumping grounds because we've been taken advantage of by large companies who want to come in and just use our resources. And you're in a very powerful position to slow things down and make sure that the community that you represent is informed and gets to consent about decisions about what happens in our community. And I think we would also do well to consult respectfully with the Indigenous people who are still here and who have stewarded the land and water in our community for longer than any of us have been here. Thank you.
Gary Oden from McKinley.
Hi, Gary Oden from McKinley. I wanted to bring up some facts here that we're all concerned about the water usage. And a medium data center could use 300 to 500 gallons per day. That's a heck of a lot of water. But the large hyperscale AI centers can take up to 1 million to 500 million gallons a day. That is a huge amount of water coming out of our lakes, rivers, or groundwater. Other thing I wanted to bring up is the energy consumption. A medium data center can take up to or uses 120,000 to 480,000 kilowatts per day. The large facilities can take up 480 to 2.4 million kilowatts per day. And just to give you an idea of some of the power that's used in a traditional rack, that's a 6 foot tall, 19-inch wide rack. With the traditional servers, they take between 5 and 15 kilowatts a day. But now that AI is in the picture, AI is pushing it to 40 to 100 kilowatts per rack. It's just amazing the amount of power they are taking. And one last thing I wanted to bring up is in Cheyenne, Wyoming, a rare bacterium was detected in a reclaimed water after wastewater from the Meta AI data center commissioning entered the system. Though not in drinking water, officials worried about aerosolized exposure to public areas. This marks the first reported microbiology contamination linked to an AI data center. While the incident occurred during commissioning, not regular operations, it highlights public health risks akin to Legionnaire's outbreak from cooling systems. This event underscores the AI expansion impacts communities, demanding public health be a key consideration for data center operation. Thank you for listening to me.
Adeline Murphy from Georgetown Township.
Hi, Adeline Murphy, Georgetown Township. I urge you all to vote yes on a moratorium for data centers. I don't need to go over the facts again because everybody else has been extremely thorough and I don't need to be redundant, but it's a temporary moratorium. Why not? What's it hurt? Also, everybody here tonight is here because they care not about their own homes, but about their neighbors, the rest of their communities. And I would bet that everybody here tonight doesn't want to see another data center anywhere in Wisconsin. And I don't know how you all feel about this right now. Hopefully your mind will be changed if you don't think a moratorium is necessary. But if you don't vote in favor of a moratorium, I hope it ends up in your backyard. I hope you end up with brown sludge coming out of your faucets. I hope your kids stop talking to you and you lose access to your grandchildren. I hope that if you do whatever NDA stuff and you get some money out of this and you can pick the nice velvet lined oak box, that nobody shows up. And Adam Jarko, I know you won't recuse yourself, so instead I have a story. I'm not from around here initially, but I knew a kid in high school who had a last name very similar to yours, and he ended up with the nickname of Jerk Off. Let's
keep the comments. It's pretty small writing here, but I think it's Mark Thayer from St. Croix Falls.
Thank you for the opportunity tonight. My name is Dr. Mark L. Thayer. I'm a proud resident, full-time for 35 years at Polk County. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for all of the work that you do for us, to represent us, to listen to us. I know tonight is not about data centers. It's about a moratorium to understand the data centers. I think we already know that they pollute. There's light pollution, air pollution, utilization of electricity, and utilization of up to 5 million gallons of water each day for a data center. But I believe in science and I believe in data, and I believe currently there are now enough data centers in the United States that for each of you to look into what the effects are. And honestly, there's probably some positive components of data centers. There's some jobs, there's some money, but each of us have chosen to live in Polk County for a reason. And that's because of the quality of life, the safety of our family. Our 3 children have gone to school here, and I'm proud of that. So I thank you for your work. There's no question in my mind, and I would think in many people's mind, a moratorium to study. What are the benefits? What are the risks? What are the long-term consequences? Number 2, that we as Polk County residents have made a choice to live here for a number of reasons. We don't live here for urban sprawl. We don't live here for the money. We live here for safety, quality, and our neighbors. We live for people respecting each of you and us appreciating each of you to represent our needs and your own needs as neighbors. So with that, I absolutely support a moratorium for a long length of period of time. I do personally volunteer any of my time if I can help with any of you. I'm still practicing to help the healthcare of this community and the community of Burnett County with pride. And so whatever I can do, please ask. And again, thank you, each of you, for all of your work. Thank you for the opportunity.
Donna Martinson from Garfield Township.
Donna Martinson, Garfield Township. I am in favor of a permanent moratorium, but we'll start with what we can do. And I do believe that we have enough information. People have talked about the resources that are consumed, and I think all of us need to face the reality that these things are limited. We only have a certain amount of fresh water. Producing electricity requires drawing from other resources. We only have enough land. We can't make more. And the consequences, I believe, are negative related to data centers. And what do they produce? Data. And I think each of us here, speaking for the moratorium, needs to reduce our own use of AI and cloud computing, because that would be consistent and an ethical way of approaching things. Because I'd rather see us produce real, tangible things rather than data, I want to bring up an example that I read about earlier today, and that is that the consequences of this year's drought and wildfires across Europe are significant. They're resulting in substantial reductions in fruit and vegetable production. There are drops in dairy and livestock production. There are losses in the rice crop of Italy, which is the place for rice in Europe. And we've got our own drought here, and people still need to eat. The U.S. is a net importer of food. When I read that, that surprised me. So the impacts beyond our borders affect us. Why does this matter? We've got these limited resources of land and water and air and power. I would rather that we use these valuable resources to produce food for us directly rather than data.
Barbara Folsom from St. Croix Falls.
Hello, Barbara Fossum from St. Croix Falls. Thank you, everyone. I'm standing here because I believe sometimes the most responsible thing ordinary people can do is ask those making important decisions to pause. Just pause. We live in a world that moves very quickly. Decisions are made. Plans move forward, money is spent, and sometimes we don't fully understand what we've changed until after we've changed it. But some decisions can't easily be undone. And when that's true, taking more time isn't weakness, it's wisdom. There's an old idea that asks us to consider the seventh generation. To think about what we decide today might affect people 7 generations from now. We'll never meet most of those people. They won't know our names, but they may inherit the consequences of our decisions. So perhaps we owe them something, not perfection, not certainty, but thoughtfulness. A willingness to ask one more question, to listen to one more person, to consider something we might have missed. Before we go any further, let's make sure we understand what we're doing. That's what I'm asking for today, a pause. A little more time to listen, a little more time to understand, and enough humility for all of us to acknowledge that none of us sees the entire picture. This isn't about being against progress. Sometimes protecting progress means making sure we're headed in the right direction before we accelerate. And it isn't about winning or losing, because if we're making decisions that will affect people who aren't even here yet, there shouldn't be winners and losers in this room. There should simply be people trying to leave something good behind. The Good Samaritan didn't change the entire world. He simply noticed that others had passed by and decided that what was in front of him mattered enough to stop. Maybe that's what is being asked of us now, to notice, to care, and before we take another step, to pause. Because 7 generations from now, no one will care how quickly we made this decision. They will only inherit what we decided. Thank you.
Lisa Mayor from Eureka.
Thank you all. My name is Lisa Mayo. I'm from Eureka Township, and I am in favor of both a short-term moratorium and a long-term moratorium for the erection of a data center. I would just like to say that several years ago, the county asked all the townships to develop a comprehensive plan. And that plan was to set out 20 years in the future. And the result of the vast majority of these comprehensive plans were to preserve the rural nature of Polk County and to preserve our natural resources. So I hope you will take those out and read them, because they are a guide for the county. Thank you.
Kate Kryman from McKinley. I know I got the Kate part right. I don't know about the last name, but Kate from McKinley looks like Kryman. All right, how about Susan Lowe from Georgetown? I'm kind of striking out here. How about I think it's Paul Hayden from Luck. I think so, from Luck.
Hello, I'm Paulette Adair from Luck. I've been researching data centers, and much of what I've learned is deeply disturbing. The massive hyperscale data centers are the greatest threat to rural communities, which have seen an increasing number of data center proposals. They are attracted by lower land values and the possibility rural officials may not be equipped or experienced to deal with these trillion-dollar companies. The most disturbing fact, in 2023, Wisconsin legislators passed Act 19, foregoing millions in state sales tax revenue for data centers, subsidizing billions of dollars of construction and operating costs for many years to come. Many states have enacted moratoriums to pause data center construction. Such a bill was introduced to the Wisconsin legislature in February and failed to pass. Additionally, large utility companies like We Energy are actively recruiting data center developers into Wisconsin by providing development sites and marketing it to the developers. There is a huge lack of transparency surrounding these projects. Big tech and data center developers are sophisticated and skilled on limiting how much information reaches the public. It is common practice to enter into non-disclosure agreements with local officials who may not even understand what company these developers are actually representing. Anonymous LLCs make it difficult to know who is actually behind the proposal. The public may be unaware of the proposed data center until a few weeks before construction starts. With this in mind, we urge the board to develop a legal toolkit to be prepared to defend us from these entities, including large wind and solar farms and also CAFOs. Target the approving process by having a policy in place prohibiting any elected official, staff member, or consulting from signing a non-disclosure agreement with the developer. Have a policy in place requiring contact between a developer and any official to be documented and disclosed with the public. Have a vetting process for identifying who you are actually dealing with and whether the developer intends to operate the facility themselves or is building intended for a tenant you never met. Examine our zoning codes and strengthen our ordinances on all pollution sources, including water, air, noise, light, and vibration standards. Place limits and control the location and the size of the proposed site. Have a plan to commission your own independent fiscal impact analysis contracted by the county, but paid for by the developer and completed before any application is accepted. Know the projected operational lifespan of a facility and have a plan for requiring funded decommissioning before any permits are issued. Determine who in advance pays for the cleanup if the operator goes bankrupt. Transparency and public involvement are crucial to the success of this plan. We have confidence in you. You will vote yes for this moratorium. The people of Polk County are entrusting you with this huge responsibility. Thank you for your work and service to the community. And to everyone listening today, please direct all your energy and comments toward our state legislators as they are responsible for all our data center issues.
Lisa Dorr from Lake Town.
Hi, my name is Lisa Dorr, and I'm from the great town of Lake Town. Really want to thank you for your leadership tonight, Chairman O'Connell and Chairman Arcan, especially making sure that this got on the agenda and we could talk about it. And I'd also want to say what a fabulous turnout here tonight, guys. Great to see. Like so many people, I support this moratorium, but I wanted to bring up some concerns that I have, that it's not used to distract people, but it's actually used to protect our communities. And we've seen that happen around Wisconsin, where moratoriums are passed and then nothing happens. And we want to make sure that that doesn't happen here in Polk. I have three specific issues or questions I wanted to raise. And the first one is exactly what are you going to do during this moratorium? If you look at Resolution 2926, you'll notice that there's no definition of what actions are going to be taken during the moratorium. And this is in stark contrast to other counties and towns that have laid out specific topics that they're going to study and have specific dates for when recommendations or actual ordinances are delivered. So we'd really like to have that be specified. What's going to happen during this moratorium? We'd also like to make sure that there's citizen input. We've seen in Polk County where citizens are locked out of the moratorium process, and we really need explicit language in the moratorium to make sure that there's meaningful citizen participation. And I really hope that all of you guys stick around for the duration of this so that we make sure that there's citizen participation. The second question I have is around what resources are going to be available. As you know, this is a very complicated industry, and our staff and you supervisors can't possibly understand the breadth and depth of this issue. So we'd like to make sure that Polk County has the resources available for staff and consultants that we've seen on the trails issue, where there's plenty of resources available to make sure the job's done correctly. And if you take the Sawyer County example, their moratorium is very interesting. They actually list out the potential professionals that may be needed to do the job. And then other counties actually ask staff to inform them if they need more resources. Then my final question kind of builds on Paulette's point. We'd like to see immediate action taken in this resolution to repeal the state's $2.1 billion sales tax exemption for this industry. Resolution 2926 could include explicit language calling for our state senator, our state house member, and the governor to repeal the sales tax exemption. And I hope that everyone here does that too. We really need to repeal. The tech bros do not need a $2.1 billion tax exemption. Thank you so much.
I'm gonna say it's Bill Masson from Eureka.
Good evening. My name is Bill Mawson, and I'm on the town board in the town of Eureka. I'm not kind of new to this. What happened about 6 months ago or maybe a year ago, some board members that used to sit on the county board where you were at, and citizens of the town of Eureka asked me to give my thoughts about what I thought about CAFOs, wind generators, solar farms, E1, and data centers. Tell you the truth, I hadn't thought about it very much, but after I thought about it a little bit and started to investigate it, I thought that, this is going to be a job and somebody's going to have to get it done. And right now, when some of the people that's on your town board, or county board, excuse me, I am already pretty positive of where our county board is thinking about, and I congratulate you. And I know that I feel that the citizens of Polk County will be happy with the moratorium we're going to do and the ordinance that you're going to make possible for us to have the same county we have right now. Thank you.
Nicole Richard from St. Croix Falls.
Well, Nicole Mishad, St. Croix Falls. Hello, members of the board. Thanks for being here tonight, listening to the remarkable consistency across all of our neighbors here in the room tonight, and also in all the other rooms you've been in listening to this conversation. I just wanted to say a few things that I wrote down here. Like, of course, we need to consider ways to support economic activity here in Polk County. When a development from a huge company comes across the desk, we need to weigh the opportunities and look at the impact and the consequences very clearly. We need to slow down and not let the interests of multi-billion-dollar private companies pressure this process while passing the costs and the risks onto our rural community. Polk County is a rural area that will continue to feel the pressure of development, and for a good reason. We know how good the quality of life here is. Clean and abundant water, farmland and diverse agricultural community, public land accessible for hunting, fishing, trapping, hiking, nature study. Tourism draw because of the varied motorized and non-motorized recreation assets, much of which is focused on our lakes, rivers, and secluded spaces. We have an opportunity here in these rather David versus Goliath situations to act on our shared values and protect what we all love about Polk County. These companies strategically target rural areas because they think we are idiots, and they know that we have less political, financial, and regulatory capacity to negotiate with enormous companies and lawyers sent from who knows where. If we are not careful and allow any of these big companies to drive the process, we will be taken advantage of. It's the nature of business. We need to make it clear that Polk County is opposed to socializing the costs and privatizing the benefits and profits of these projects. We need to have ordinances protecting groundwater, utility ratepayers, property rights, farmland, the environment, and clear policy that protects the taxpayers and keeps control here in this room. And lastly, for any of these proposals, the burden really should be on the developer to prove that the community is actually better off. With approving this moratorium, you have the opportunity to bring the right people into the room to help guide your decision-making process. Somebody else said in here, none of us can know the scope of what these projects are, and we shouldn't be dazzled. Thank you for your time.
They gave me another tough one here. I'm gonna call it, it looks like Nick. Maybe Kingston. Maybe Balsam Lake. Looks like it might be Balsam Lake.
Hi, everyone. I've never gotten to Kingston before, so I appreciate that. That's a first. I'm a farmer in Balsam Lake, Wisconsin, and I just want to express my support for this moratorium. Something that I've been learning a lot about is actually the sound pollution that comes from these data centers. It's quite scary, and there are a number of lawsuits that are currently active against these data centers, so I'm just going to share some of them. In Dowagiac, Michigan, the lawsuit cites that neighbors next to the data center experienced high-pitched whining sounds that has disrupted their sleep and stripped them of the enjoyment of their environment. Some of the sound levels have reached up to 78 decibels, which, if you know how loud that is, it's quite disturbing. In Bristol, Virginia, residents near Google's Mango Farm have experienced panic, anxiety, sleep-depriving anxiety because of the low-frequency noise that literally rocks your core. That's a quote from one of the residents. In South Haven, Mississippi, homeowners filed a lawsuit reporting that there's a near constant industrial whirring and vibrations that are causing persistent headaches, depression, and severe sleeplessness. Yeah, and you can go on. There's a lot of these lawsuits, and it's really kind of scary to think about having something like that in our backyard. I can tell you I have family and friends that visit my family's farm in Balsam Lake from all over the country. A lot of them are from the city. A lot of them are exposed, to that noise pollution. And when they come to Polk County, I can tell you people have the best night's sleep of their life. They get to relax. And that's something that's really special about where we live. And I'm really worried that that would be compromised if we had a data center. So I really encourage all of you to support the moratorium indefinitely. Yeah, and really look into this because I don't think it's a good idea. Thanks so much for listening.
All right, this one might be tougher than the last one. I'm gonna say Paul was something from Amory. I can. Is that close? Probably not.
Yeah, it's actually Paula Westmoreland from Amory. So, yeah, thank you. And I want to say thank you again for the opportunity for us all to speak. I really appreciate that. Public input is critical to this process. And I just want to point out two things that haven't been mentioned so far. I am very concerned about the water, and there's water usage is part of it, but the other part is the toxic discharge that what I've read that 15% of what's discharged is corrosive, it's corrosive from, chemicals used to deal with the equipment, and forever chemicals are being discharged. So it isn't just a question of the uses, it's also a question of what's discharged from that. And the other thing just to point out is that Erin Brockovich has a public database where she's capturing information reported across the country of people who have actual experience with data centers that have been built and in the process of being built. So I suggest that would be a source of some information to check out. So again, thank you for your time, and I am totally in support of an indefinite moratorium. Thank you.
We're gonna try Jesse, might not even try the last name, from Frederick, Wisconsin. I could try it, but I think it'd be botched up pretty good.
Not Norwegian, it's Ukrainian. Good afternoon.
Can you give us your name, Jesse?
Jesse Sapinic, 50-year resident of Polk County, or around there. I'm here to speak to you of things that can be overwhelming, of things that cover more ground, both actually and abstractly, than we can easily conceive of. AI data centers are the nexus, the hub, the crux of some of the most pressing problems of our time. Simply put, data centers are both literally and symbolically representations of much that threatens us as humans. That's not hyperbole. Climate disruption, direct environmental damage, and psychological effects are among the many ramifications these centers pose. The effects on the climate are obvious. The power to fuel these centers are increasingly dependent on fossil fuels, resulting in more carbon and greenhouse gases, contributing to climate change. I'll let the fires, the floods, the droughts, and species extinction, events that seem to always happen everywhere else until they happen here, speak for themselves. The more immediate environmental effects are the depletion of water sources for cooling, exorbitant electrical energy use, noise and air pollution, and land use based on the facility's large footprint. Electric utility bills of citizens have been seen to rise in the areas around these plants. To placate citizens and decrease hookup times to the larger grid, the developers of data centers have been encouraged by the federal regime to generate their own electricity with gas-powered generators. This methodology creates even more air pollution and noise, often overlooked by the EPA in the permitting process. The psychological effects are profound. To mention a few, artificial intelligence, uncontrolled, threatens our privacy through surveillance. Think of flock cameras to start with. Increases wealth disparity, as in the owners reap the profits, while we foot the bill through tax exemptions, subsidies, and environmental costs. And the undermining of our children's ability to read, write, and think critically. This is a direct result
that AI data centers make possible. Across the political spectrum, there is resistance building to data centers, giving too much power to artificial intelligence and the wealthy who own them. This is too much for any of us to understand all at once. We need a moratorium to gain time to create zoning laws and regulations that lessen their impacts. One more sentence. We need to get back to the idea of state and local control. Remember that one? We can grab the reins of this runaway carriage here and now. Thank you very much.
Corbin Nord from Blesser, Wisconsin. He's got a long hike here, so.
Hi, my name is Corbin Nord. I'm a proud parent, partner, small business owner of Scuba Bass LLC. What happened in Hammond should concern every parent in this county. A data center was approved near a school despite overwhelming opposition from that community. And when it comes to the long-term effects of continuous data center noise on developing children, we simply do not have decades of research telling us what that exposure looks like. Those Hammond kids should not be the experiment. History is too full of projects we were told were safe, only to learn decades later we didn't understand the consequences. You can't guarantee those kids won't suffer consequences. You can't. The studies aren't there, and our children are not guinea pigs. I'm also the owner of Scuba Bass LLC. I remove aquatic vegetation by hand. Even my little business can require weeks of environmental review before I'm allowed to pull weeds out of a lake with my hands. If a guy hand pulling swamp weeds can require weeks of environmental review, something of this magnitude absolutely deserves years. People choose Polk County because it isn't the Twin Cities. They raise families here, retire here, buy cabins here, fish our lakes, and spend money at businesses like mine because what this place is. Quiet lakes, rural communities, farms, woods, and small towns. They're not empty space waiting for industrial development. They're the reason people choose to be here. So where does any data center fit into that? I'm asking where, because St. Croix County's answer became near a school of children, treating them no better than experimental guinea pigs. Polk County can learn from that and do much better, if even ever at all. I'm not asking this board to be anti-technology. I'm asking you to be cautious. Keep the moratorium. Because if we're wrong by being cautious, we've only lost some time. I know this county won't mind that much. There's one other thing people in this room deserve a straight answer about. Adam Jarko represented the developer behind Hammond Data Center, mineral miner, whatever. He benefited from that. Now he's sitting on this board while Polk County decides whether to put a moratorium on data centers here. So I want to know, does he still represent that developer? Does he represent any other data center interests?
Let's speak to the moratorium.
This is about the moratorium. Could his current or previous clients benefit from Jarko voting against this moratorium? Has anybody on the board asked him these questions? And as a guy who tells his own community members to go F themselves on the internet, can we really trust him to properly recuse himself if appropriate? These aren't unreasonable questions. Adam Jarko is wearing two very different hats while publicly refusing requests to recuse himself. The public deserves to know where one hat begins and where one ends. Thank you.
Dr. Pearson from Frederick, Wisconsin.
Thank you, and it's nice to be able to petition our government and have all these patriots in a room with me. I'm honored. I spoke at the Unity meeting regarding my concern for agriculture, especially animal agriculture, and the impacts of a data center. Tonight, I'm going to take you on a different tack, go with a journey with me over 5 generations, and about 5,000 miles round trip. About a week and a half ago, I was able to travel to Austin, Texas to see my first grandson and hold him and speak with my son who had relocated to Texas about 5 years ago. In talking about things about that area in Texas, I learned that Austin, Texas is known to be the capital of live music in the U.S. Didn't know that. So I asked Eric, my son, I said, what else is Texas known for? He said, well, oil. He goes, but Dad, it's also soon going to be known for data centers. There's over 300 in Texas actively and another 200 in the permitting process in that state. Okay, so flying back from Austin, we looped around by Fort Worth in the north part of the state there, and I looked down a clear day in the airport or in the airplane, see oil services everywhere. Thought, yep, they're known for oil. Let's put some data centers right there. Now, going back almost 100 years, my grandfather Gus and his future wife immigrated from Sweden to the U.S., ended up in Chicago. And one day, Grandpa Gus was talking to a worker who spoke Swedish. And this worker said, Gus, I found a place that reminds me of our homeland, Sweden. It's in northwest Wisconsin. Really? Tell me about it. Clean air, clean water, white pines, just like home. So Grandpa Gus, Grandma Astrid, packed up the two kids, my dad, one of them, traveled to northwest Wisconsin to enjoy the beautiful scenery, lakes, trees, air, quiet, just like in Sweden. My father then continued that tradition after I was born and my 5 siblings. Every year we travel to northwest Wisconsin for the same reason. Now, what the phrase is what are you going to be known for? What are things known for? This part of the state is known for that. Beauty, the trees, the water, the agriculture, just like in Sweden. Now, I told him, he was told there's still a few Norwegians and Danes up here, but he still wanted to come anyway. That's the inside joke. Okay. So anyway, I asked the county board, I said, you've all had a picture taken, I'm sure, together since your election. What are you going to be known for? How are you going to vote on this moratorium? That's what you're going to be known for. Thank you.
Pat Jensen. Didn't really put a municipality, but
My name is Pat Jensen, and I live in St. Croix Falls, originally from Milwaukee, and moved here in 1971 to spend the rest of my life here because it was such a beautiful place. I had a wonderful husband, and I just can't understand why any of you would want this. We live in such a beautiful place. They call it God's country. It's not going to be God's country if we get this. But I have couple questions from the whole board. And I don't know half of you, probably don't even know 3/4 of you. But how many of you, by a raise of your hand, have been to one of these sites to see what it involves? It's my only question. All I can say, after my husband died, I chose to stay here and not move back to Milwaukee because this is God's country. And if you let this happen, there's no turning back. And it'll change everything forever. That's all I have to say.
Lauren White from St. Croix Falls.
Lauren White, St. Croix Falls. I first off, would offer a challenge to everyone in this room. For the next time you decide to take a 10 megabyte picture and put it on the cloud, think twice before you put 5 of them out there on the board. The whole industry is probably a bubble industry, very similar to our sand mining for the fracking. And if that's the case, the way you can control this bubble industry is to use it less. My second point, which is an administrative one to the city council or the county board, is make this moratorium apply to all the area of the county. Please don't exclude the cities, villages, townships, and the zoned townships. And I understand that will be a difficult thing for you to do, but I hope there's a way that you can engage every citizen of the community of the entire area of Polk County. Thank you.
Shauna Zins from Amory.
Hi, I'm Shanna. I just had, I come from Amory, I also come from Siren, Wisconsin. Came up here 25 years ago to get peace and quiet from the cities. Can't stand it, was a drug addict for over 25 years, sobered up here. Been very good of the community ever since. I got a big mouth, but you know, I'm very lovable and the same. I kind of pulled up a couple things which I thought were very important. There's 76 questions, and it goes from, I would say, the standard of, you know, why we should have it, why we should not have it, the fiscal annual risk of it, our fire department's risk, if it would start on fire, who's going to pay for it, is going to poison our grounds, the infrastructure, the utility upkeep, the public safety, the awareness, the emergency safety protocols, I think should all be implemented. The construction impacts, how long this is going to last, are we going to have to tear it down, who's paying for it, and why should we have to pay anything? If they're that rich to build it, they can pay for it. If they want to give a tax exempt, it should go to the people. That's all I got to say about that one. But I do have 10 copies of that. I also have over 500 signatures on change.org. And I think these are very important. There's only 76 quick questions. If you guys just want to just on your, you know, when you're doing your memoriam, to look at them, because there's a lot of things that we don't all understand. We will never all understand all the knowledge, but knowledge is power. And if one of those just tweaks, maybe it'll tweak another person, maybe it'll be good, maybe it'll be bad, but I just want you to get the full aspect, because this is where I come to peace. And I just bought that land in Amory for why? Peace and quiet, no noise. I didn't spend $70,000 of my barely $1,000 a month to sit next to a data center or get poisoned by the water that I drink or kill my kid in general and the wildlife. That's what I came up here for in general. But I love you all. I truly do. I just really want you to make a good decision from your hearts and truly reach down in your hearts and just look at the questions. There's only 76, and it will bring up a lot of things that people have brought up, but it'll also bring up things that we probably never thought of, and I never did. So thank you for your time, and I'm definitely in for, you know, ending this whole data thing. And yes, a pause until we can figure out really what's going on in the world. Okay, thank you.
David Klopp from Georgetown.
Thank you, supervisors, giving me the opportunity to speak and opening up more comments for the public. Very impressive to see my neighbors out here speaking about this. The water is why I'm here. I've got the most beautiful spring on my property. It's got natural occurring lithium. It's better than anything you could possibly drink, any water in the world. And it comes right out of my woods. Just bubbles out of the ground. And northern Polk County only has one aquifer. It's so sandy up there from when the Grantsburg sublobe retreated. It left all the sand. Well, it's just really beautiful water, and just don't screw it up. So please support the moratorium. Also, just a procedural thing. I think my District 6 supervisor, Mr. Adam Jarchow, is got the appearance of working for the data center company. And I think maybe just might be wise to step back and just avoid that kind of appearance. Thank you.
We got a Patty from Clayton. I don't think I better try the last name. I don't think so.
I'm Patty Jacobchuk from Clayton. Used to be Anderson, but I love the guy, so took the name. Okay, so obviously, I feel it's very important for a moratorium to be put into place before a data center would even be considered. There's so many critical concerns. I had just a few. There's so many people have expressed better than me, but I think everybody would agree that knowledge is power. And it could be power to say, yeah, why wouldn't we build a data center? I don't think that's happened, though. I don't think it has. What has happened is corporate greed, is why data centers are being built. There's no good that a data center can come to us. Maybe there is. Maybe I don't have the information. I'm not an expert. I don't believe any of you are experts. So I don't know how a decision this large could be made without a moratorium. That would show a lack of transparency. We have way too much of that going on with our government. I do not want to see it in Polk County. We also have way too much corporate greed, and I am fatigued. We don't need to follow suit with what's going on overall in the nation. We can be our own people. We can be Polk County. We can do what the constituents want, what they're asking for. At the very least, show that you're considering information before you make such a big decision. And show the people that you are not about corporate greed. You're about Polk County. We do not have to become what our nation has become. Please hold a moratorium. Thank you.
Mom Horns from Frederick.
Hello, my name is Mara Horns. I'm a vegetable farmer. I live out between Frederick and Clam Falls. I am in support of a permanent moratorium and a county-wide moratorium. Wanted to second what one of our community members said earlier today about just making sure that a moratorium covers both zoned and unzoned townships. Our watersheds, everything in our county is connected, so what affects one township is going to affect all of us immediately or eventually. This summer, being a farmer, I'm always thinking about water, and I've been thinking about water this summer a lot. In Polk County, we are really blessed to have very clean and plentiful groundwater, and we are unfortunately in a very unique and rare position in that. My in-laws came to visit from Iowa this summer. My nieces and nephews are always shocked that we can drink the tap water at our house because they have lived their entire lives in a town where they can't drink the tap water. I have friends who live in the city who haven't been able to swim in a month because all the lakes have blue-green algae. And, we've been seeing the damage of wildfires and drought throughout the world this year in a really devastating way. You know, we who live here, we know that we have such beautiful water resources and we know the importance of them because they affect our lives every day. Once these resources are threatened, it is going to be very difficult or impossible to recover them. So I think that we as members of this county know how to steward our water resources and how to take care of our natural environment that we all value so much more than any out-of-state billionaires. So I support a permanent moratorium on data centers. Thank you.
I'm gonna say it's Holly Walsh from Osceola.
Good evening. Thank you for all hearing our comments tonight. And I just want to say that I'm heartened by all the people here and their inspiring comments. And some of the things I'm going to say are kind of repeat. The race in the AI industry is on, and we are all caught in the middle of a rapid data center expansion across the country. As of July 2026, more than 533 moratoriums have been passed nationwide, spanning 42 states. I'm here to request that you, the Polk County Supervisors, pass a moratorium. If it could be a permanent one, that would be awesome, or even 3 years to give us the time to study the impacts. We need time to catch up and educate ourselves on all the complexities of this issue and the impacts before we consider any large data center to come to our community. There's wide bipartisan opposition and concern across the country on the expansion of data centers in our communities. Voting to invoke a moratorium for data centers in Polk County will give the community and elected officials in each municipality time to research and consult with experts on the short and long-term impacts, environmental, economic, social, and as well as the cost associated with infrastructure changes, water, energy, and other resource impacts of data centers. Communities need time to develop strong zoning ordinances and permitting processes to protect the community and its residents from the negative impacts of data centers and to be sure the community does not shoulder the cost. I want to see no non-disclosure agreements and no tax incentives given to multi-billionaire tech companies. They need to pay their taxes in full and all the infrastructure upgrades and energy costs and water utilization costs. Actually, they don't even need to use water. They can use a closed system of glycol to cool their systems, but it's more costly, and they just want to tap our aquifers. So we need to say no to that. Our water is incredibly valuable. So I am full support of the moratorium and ask that you highly consider this. Thank you.
Annie Thatcher from Bone Lake.
Hi, and thank you very much. My name is Dr. Annie Thatcher, and I've been serving the Luck community and beyond, all Polk County and beyond, for over 24 years as a chiropractor and a natural health care provider. So first, I want to say thank you so much for allowing us to do this and taking your time to listen. And I just want to say, what brave souls, what intelligent, amazing, passionate people we have here. So thank you. I'm just so proud. So I hope you guys are too, that we're all your voters and we care this much. So everybody's already said everything I want to say, except for the human toll. So what am I going to see if something like this comes into our community and my patients. That's what I worry about. Like how, when somebody is filled with all these toxicities or has EMF coming out, hurting their mitochondria, you guys might not know all this, but I do, and I'm worried about what I'm going to see in the future. So I just ask you to please do this moratorium. I would love a permanent one. I would love the whole Polk County-wide one. I'd love a state one. I would love a countrywide one. Yes. So anyway, that's all I have to say, and I just want to say thank you.
Alicia Stanley from Eureka Center.
It's Philip Staley. That's okay. I've been called worse. I left my notebook back there on the seat, and I never go anyplace at a meeting like this without it. But there's no reason for me to bring it up here because all of these people have already said everything that I would have said anyway. And so I would like to request that you put a moratorium on, and if you can't make it permanent, just make it almost permanent. And one little sidelight, a lady from Eureka, Lisa from Eureka, mentioned the comprehensive plan. I'm on the planning committee at Eureka. And that comprehensive plan that we had, I'm proud to say I helped draft that. So it makes me feel good that people do recognize that we have those things and we can use them to help the citizens and help everybody. So please pass the moratorium for as long as you can. Thank you.
All right, this name has come up before, but it's back on here. So Lindsay Potter from Georgetown.
Hello, and thank you so much for taking the time to listen to all of us here tonight. And yes, please forgive me. I was late and missed my first name call, but I'm here now. And as the gentleman before me said, there has already been so much good information brought up to this microphone tonight that there's not too much more that I'm here to add. I fully support a permanent moratorium against data centers that is countywide. But I just want to throw in my 2 cents. I work with a nonprofit organization that's been based for more than 25 years in Polk County, and we get to do some collaborating across state lines. And one of the groups that we've been working with lately is based in Minnesota, and it's called the Coalition for Responsible Data Centers. And so through working with them, I've gotten to hear firsthand what happens in some of these towns where there's an NDA and a data center moves in before the county board has had the kind of opportunity that you have right now. And they really have their hands tied. So these tech companies come in, they have more money than anyone else in the world, and a lot of power. And the idea that they're not there to further consolidate their own wealth and power, or that they're going to be there to do something that might be in the best interest of the citizens, I think is a foolish idea. And so one of the things that scared me the most that I've heard from this group is that in some of these areas where the data centers have come in, they are demanding of the towns that they have top priority when it comes to water usage. So that means in a year like this year, when we've had drought, that drinking water, that agricultural irrigation is a lower priority than data center cooling water. The data center's cooling water would be the last thing to go. And so I just want to think about that, what it means to really give away your rights to your own water, or the rights to the water that you depend on if agriculture is your livelihood. And that's true for so many people out here. One other thing I want to just emphasize is that taking this decision into local hands is of the utmost importance because we have candidates coming up for governor, both of whom say that they'd be okay with data centers. You know, Tom Tiffany says not on farmland, but if a data center is somewhere near to your farmland and it drinks up all the water you need in order to have a successful crop that year, it doesn't really matter if it's on your acreage or not. So we've heard that from a lot of people here tonight, that water is something we all share and we all need to share in protecting it. I would just say that to that point, you know, we really want to think about not exploiting the value of Polk County, the value we have in the land here and the water here. So thank you. Please vote for a moratorium.
Jason Avery from Clayton.
I thank you for holding this meeting. It's a little shorter. Okay. So everything that's already been said, I would repeat. I'm a senior cybersecurity engineer, and I can tell you I am for a moratorium. I would say a permanent one, but I know that statutory, I think that's not something that is able to be done because of the way the state writes things. So it's a big topic. So what I want to really bring to the table today is just a personal story. In 2021, I went to a security conference for professionals and I attended a talk on AI. In 2021, it was kind of a fantastical topic at the time. And the presenter was about an 80-year-old man. And I thought, this will be good. So it turned out he had 30 years as a computer science. He had 25 years in the CIA as a psychological analysis. And he said that AI is already aware that we do not like it. And the title of his talk is that AI is here without a whimper. So as I've been reflecting as a senior cybersecurity engineer, I'm forced to use these models because they are an active threat. So I would say, to be clear, I'm not pro AI, but you are going to hear it's a national security issue. That's not wrong, but they don't need to build them on top of us. Okay, they can be built somewhere else. So my point is this, though. This is going to be a very long-term fight. This doesn't end tonight. The AI models are already set up to think in third, fourth, and fifth order of magnitude planning. So I would guess, because I work with these models all the time, it's already predicted the resistance and how to counter. Okay, so you really need to stay on your toes with all of this because right now the moratorium, as I read it, has a lot of soft spots on it that could be challenged pretty quickly. Because unfortunately, AI is used for the legal realm. And you can shove anything into it and find about 8 different loopholes in 3 minutes and be a complete ignoramus when it comes to law. So we really have to, as a community, be very supportive, like continue to support. And anyone who's a professional, like myself as a technologist, need to be basically available for questions, right? Because it's very expensive to hire professionals. And so take notes of the people who are speaking intelligently, like the doctors and farmers and stuff like that. And, include them in on the conversations. Now, I already assume that this is going to pass. It's the most unifying political issue I've ever seen. So I'll just end with this. We have to stay on our toes. Everything we're doing now has already been anticipated. I don't want to freak you out, but I have to defend against these models every single day. They've gotten pretty good. Okay, thank you.
All right, we got a couple more here, but it looks like we may have another. But Isabel Walsh from St. Croix Falls.
I have been a Wisconsin resident my whole life, and something that I find is really important to living here is the concept of being Midwest nice. And I think that that relies on a value of community and caring for your neighbors and caring for the people around you. The construction of data centers is something that I believe goes directly against those values and beliefs that we hold so dear. I'm going to, thank you. I'm going to reiterate some points that have already been hit. The water pollution. There are reports coming out of Memphis from people who live near data centers. They cannot shower in their own homes. They cannot flush a toilet in their own homes because they don't have enough water in their homes to do so. It's all going to the data center. The water that does come out of their spouts and faucets is mucky and brown. They have to buy water from the store, gallons of it, to be able to live in their own homes. The night sky is gone. You can't see it. It's daylight 24 hours a day. The sound that comes out of these data centers, the effects that it has on people is just detrimental. Something that I really want to speak to as well, though, is the impact it's having on my generation. AI has caused people to end their own lives because it encourages them. There are no restrictions on what it tells people to do. It has led to a number of young people ending their own lives, and it's preventable. It's entirely preventable, and you have my generation's futures and well-beings in your hands. What are you going to do with it? You can prevent suicide. You can prevent mental health problems. You can prevent this with something as simple as a vote yes on a moratorium. I'm glad that a moratorium has been proposed. It is moving in the right direction. All you have to do is say yes to it. If you care about your neighbors, which I hope you do, if you value the concept of Midwest nice, you'll vote in favor of a moratorium and you'll say no to AI data centers. Thank you.
All right, this one's it's got a lot of letters, but I think it's Dennis, I think is the last name from Clayton. I can't. Is there a Dennis from Clayton?
Hi, I'm Matt Bennis from Clayton, Wisconsin. Just moved here from Stockholm, Wisconsin, when my wife and I lost our home down there. We moved up here for a few reasons. One was in Pepin County, they are building a data center right now. And it's not the greatest because I weld professionally. I was actually offered a position to help with some of the structural stuff there. I turned it down. The other thing is I've been near these. Like the first one I ever worked on, it was like 160 decibels when it was done from like 100 yards. That's the cooling fans. They're the primary contributor of noise pollution. And basically that's on par with shooting a 308, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at 600 rounds per minute. I know that because I actually shoot professionally as well. I do F-class, I do PRS, I do the gun. So I'm at the shooting range in Richardson all the time. I'm sure some people here have probably heard the shooting that I do. It sounds like a freaking machine gun sometimes because some of the tournaments are actually like full auto. And it's on par with the amount of noise that I generate. When I go to these tournaments, I have earplugs, earmuffs on all the time, and that still doesn't get me below 100 decibels for the majority of the shots taken. So I also shoot a lot of suppressed. That takes it just below hearing damage levels after 8 hours. That only gets you to about 78 decibels shooting 308. And that's with multi-$1,000 suppressors. These data centers are extraordinarily loud. And that's something that I think nobody here has really taken into account other than one gentleman that brought it up. And the things that it does to wildlife, I will tell you flat out, in Pepin County, there are no deer within 2 or 3 miles of that data center going up. It's already partially operational. And as a hunter, as someone who travels to hunt, already 2 of the hunting zones that I go to are affected by these. And down in Texas particularly, we were at a ranch down there. Data center went up around it, no more hogs. They're gone. They left town. Tens of thousands of hogs that we were going up in helicopters to find them and then doing hog drives. Like, this is real stuff. They no longer go to that ranch. They're gone. So if you guys want your wildlife to stick around, you might want to at least get 2 or 3 years for this so that the technology can catch up with the noise pollution.
All right, well, unless the clerk brings me another sheet, we have one to go here. Kathleen Hobart from St. Croix Falls.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Hobart from St. Croix Falls. Well, first of all, I'll just say I'm in support of the moratorium, and some things, I've just been thinking about the moratorium this week and how it relates to my life and the people around me. I work as a bookkeeper, kind of like an accountant. The way that works now is that you're doing it all online. It's very digital. You end up using a lot of different apps. And I'm constantly being force-fed. Do you want to use AI for this? Do you want to use AI for this? It feels like they're shoving it down my throat. And I know that even within, some of the things that we use, even before AI, we've had data centers for the cloud and all sorts of things, but it's becoming increasingly an intense shove down our throats. And we can say no to things. Sometimes we don't even know. I found out the other day that one of the apps I use uses AI behind the scenes. It's really hard to even know. And I'm doing my best to use it as little as possible because it's not something that I want to support. This is a really easy way for us to take a stand. It's not inevitable. If we don't take a stand at some point, they're just going to keep shoving more and more down our throats. And so this is a chance for us to take a break, look at all the data, which is funny. Hopefully won't be using AI in doing these reports. Anyways, this is a chance to just look at it and take a break. And we can say no to some of this. It's not inevitable that it's just going to keep going on and on and on. We have to say no at some point. So I'm in support of the moratorium. Thanks.
All right, we got one more here that came in. Susan Holter from Lincoln.
Hi, Susan Holter from Lincoln. Thank you very much for taking the time today. I think it's really important to highlight a few points that have been made tonight and one that has been left out. It's not just what it does to the water now, it's also considering the future. A person mentioned in a previous one that 6G was going to be coming in 2028. So being able to look to the future and say, where is the electricity? Where is it coming from? What other projects are going on that are going to be showing up to compete with this? And so, yes, I want you to vote yes for the moratorium, but I also want you to be very detailed. I think one other lady mentioned, like having a timeline, figuring out experts, asking the right questions. And I think it's important to reach into the community. There are a lot of us, I'm willing to volunteer, other people are willing to volunteer to go ahead and give our time, give our resources, our energy, and our passion to make sure that we're protected and that you're protected. I don't want to see you guys having to look at your neighbors, your grandchildren, and your family and explain why the water is brown, why the bees are gone, and our community has collapsed. Thank you.
All right, thank you. we're gonna close the public hearing and move on with our meeting here. When you're looking for a motion to approve the agenda. Okay, well, I called a few names earlier that didn't come up to the podium, but all right, we'll come up and you'll have to give us your name. All right, well, I've been checking them off as I called them, so.
Two people on our sheet of paper. That was the second person on the sheet of paper. There were just two people on it. Cindy Johnson, Milltown. Thank you, board, for having this hearing. I appreciate it. It is so important to get the public input and as you address projects coming before the board. In my experience as a planning commissioner, I understand the weight and the decisions and the decision-making process you need to go through. And while we've heard many impassioned and well-educated community members, it is my hope that the people of Polk County stay engaged, not only in this issue, but in the writing of ordinances and of comprehensive plans, because that's your guiding documents, and I know those are the documents you need to rely on. That's what's important about being able to assess projects coming before you. Are your ordinances aligned with your comprehensive plan? And are they solid enough? And that you're not using language that is no longer used anymore, such as words like shall. The courts have deemed that as could go either way. So using proper language in your ordinance building as well as in your comprehensive plan. I took a look at the Polk County Comprehensive Plan, and it prioritizes agricultural preservation, rural character over 95% of the land designated for natural, agricultural, or rural use. And there's the focus on natural resources. And currently, our lake is very low. What happens when a large-scale data center uses our groundwater that we use for our wells and our surface water for our lakes, one of the many natural resources in the county? Appendix A in your comprehensive plan denotes the lack of infrastructure and resources and developmental limitations in Polk County. There's very little area where you even could put a data center, much less a hyperscale data center, which uses many more times than the smaller data centers of times before. The Great Lakes region, Wisconsin being one of those states in the Great Lakes region, is attracting hyperscale data centers. And due to our cooler climates, our availability of land and our availability of water. So we are going to be seeing the plan for large-scale data centers of the hyperscale size is going to be 67% of data centers are going to be based in this Great Lakes region area. And counties in Wisconsin are not just having a 12-month moratorium to research this. Dane, La Crosse, and Monroe just passed an 18-month moratorium. So why not an 18-month moratorium? There's much to do, much to research, and much to weigh as you make an impactful decision on behalf of the people and the land of Polk County. Please consider an 18-month moratorium, and please keep including the community as you have. Thank you.
All right, if there is someone else that did sign up to speak and I missed them, we'll come on up and give us your.
My wife and I moved out almost a year ago into Cushing on Round Lake. That's the little Round Lake. And we bought it from the people who couldn't leave the neighborhood, so they built off the lake, but right across the road from us. We love them. They're here right now with us. Our lake since this summer has been dropping. We're down about 8 inches. And Little Round Lake, as I understand, is a spring-fed lake. And now you want to put possibly a data center in here. I am for this moratorium. I hope you are as well. We live in Polk County. If it's not in our neighborhood, it's going to be in the next neighborhood over. Maybe it's Burnett County or one of the other counties. We're still getting familiar with Wisconsin. But they don't want it in their neighborhood. They're going to want it in our neighborhood. So we don't want it anywhere in Wisconsin, on this side of Wisconsin. Put it over by Milwaukee or some place that's populated, not here. We moved here because we wanted this. We looked for 6 years in Minnesota and Wisconsin. We finally found this place and bought it. Okay? But we don't want it in Polk County, but Burnett doesn't want it. We don't want it anywhere over here. We don't need it. Now, this might be a little out of the ordinary, but I have a feeling that most of these people behind me do not want to see a data center in here and are pro the moratorium. But I'd like to ask you, each and every one of you, and some of you aren't even looking at the audience, and engage in that. To have a data center or to push this thing down. How many of you have decided against the moratorium? Raise your hand. That means it's an indictment that you either are for it, you can't say it, or you don't know. And if you don't know, then the moratorium makes sense, because if you don't know, you should look into it so you do know. But these people are voting for you. And remember this, they didn't raise their hands. So they're either telling us something that they don't want us to know, or they are not allowed to tell us, or they don't know. They should be voting for the moratorium. Thank you.
All right, was there anyone else that signed up that I missed? Okay, we're gonna move on then with our regular meeting. Yeah, we did get 42 emails. That'll be recognized but not read.
Just a reminder to all supervisors, if you're going to speak or make motions, please use the microphones. Each table has a microphone, so turn it on, wait a second, and then talk into it. Thank you.
All right, so we're looking for a motion to approve our agenda.
I'll second.
All right, we got a motion and a second on the agenda. We actually may move a few things around, which we can move around, but let's do the moratorium on the data centers first on our resolutions. I mean, I think a lot of people came here for that. We'll see after public comment. I mean, if we need to move anything else around, but anything else on the agenda? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. Carries. All right, we have a couple matters offered for adoption on the consent agenda. Our minutes from our July 21st meeting and a denial of a shoreline ordinance petition.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, signify by saying nay. Carries. Did we get a sign up for public comment? Our public comments will be 3 minutes a person for 30 minutes. All right, we just got a couple of them for public comments. Anders Hellquist from Eau Claire. Says Eau Claire.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and County Board. My name is Anders Hellquist, an attorney with the Weld Riley firm in Eau Claire. And we represent the towns of Garfield, Apple River, Clam Falls, Georgetown, St. Croix Falls, Farmington, and Lorraine. The towns represent a mix of both unzoned townships and towns that have their own zoning code. On behalf of those towns, we respectfully request that the board vote no on Resolution 826 regarding the shoreland amendments, and we request the board remove the general zoning districts from the shoreland code. It is our opinion that the provisions of the shoreland code with the general zoning code districts are illegal. The general zoning code provisions subvert the clear right under Wisconsin law for towns to opt out of general zoning code requirements. Towns such as our unzoned town clients have the express legislative authority to opt out of general zoning code requirements or their amendments under WSStat 59.69. If Resolution 0826 passes, our unzoned towns and other affected individual property owners that we're lining up intend to bring an action against Polk County, seeking a judgment that the amendments as presented to you are illegal. During the last ESC meeting, your Corp Council advised that the towns would not have standing or the ability to bring an action, and respectfully, that advice is wrong. Standing in Wisconsin is broadly construed, and the City of Mayville case says even a trifling interest may be sufficient to confer standing. To have standing, towns have to show an underlying legal statutory interest and an injury, and the towns here would meet both elements. Again, the unzoned towns have a statutory right to opt out of general zoning. And the zoning shoreland amendments force general zoning districts on those towns that are unzoned. When that statutory right to opt out of general zoning is infringed, the infringement creates an injury. We also understand that there was a justification at the last ESC meeting that other counties do this, so we can do it too. Do other counties doing something illegal suddenly make it legal? That's absurd. There was also a notation that general zoning districts have been in the shoreland code for years, as if a repeated wrongdoing somehow makes it right. Two wrongs or repeated years of wrongdoing don't make it right. We've been taught that from the time we were kids. The towns are sick and tired of having their rights trampled, and they will bring an action to challenge these amendments. On behalf of our town clients, we respectfully request the board vote no on Resolution 826. Thank you.
All right, we have a David Klopp from Georgetown.
Thank you, board, for giving me the opportunity to speak on the shoreline ordinance. I live on Bone Lake. Bone Lake has been listed as an impaired water quality in 2004. We have zebra mussels going crazy now. Our water quality is not what we need it to be, and we don't need to go backwards on the shoreline ordinance. We don't like the idea of boathouses put on the lake and opened up with our neighbors having an Airbnb or a VRBO right next door with unregulated sewers and no one looking. We like setbacks, we like buffer zones, we like clean lakes. So I would ask you, please do not support Mr. Jarchow's shoreline ordinance. Thank you.
Okay. We're actually gonna move the temporary moratorium, resolution 2926 up in the agenda, so that's gonna be our next topic. Anyone like to move on it? Use your mic for sure.
Thank you, Ron. I make a motion that we approve resolution 2926 that creates Polk County Code Chapter 42-41, enacting a temporary moratorium on data centers. I would also at this time like to call for a roll call vote by voice on this matter.
All right, we have a motion on the floor is all we have right now.
Second.
We have a motion and a,
It's your floor, I said something. We have motion on the floor.
we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I have some amendments. So I'd like to, do we want them separate or one is just for renumbering? After on line 13, where it says towns. As well as all the shoreland areas within Polk County. If you read line 13.
So you on the moratorium?
I'm on the moratorium line 13. It's the whereas, so it'll take up all the shoreline areas within Polk County will be included in the moratorium. The second amendment is add a new subsection to be numbered 3 after line 70. For the purposes of section 4241, this moratorium applies to all the land in all the zoning districts regulated under chapter 42, including but not limited to general zoning districts, shoreland zoning districts, adopted pursuant to Wisconsin statute 59.692, floodplain districts, the lower St. Croix Riverway regulations, and all overlay districts. Accordingly, no data centers may be permitted, approved, or reviewed within any portion of Polk County subject to chapter 42. And then the third amendment would be renumbering at line, it would be 3, and then the next one would be 4.
All right, well, that's quite a motion and we would require a second to move on it.
I would second that motion.
All right, is there any discussion on the amendment to the motion?
Chair, if I may, the added language was requested by Corporation Counsel of the Chair of the Environmental Services Committee, Supervisor O'Connell. The reason being, the moratorium as drafted does include those areas. However, to make sure that it's clear and make sure there's no question that those areas are covered by the moratorium, my office wanted to clarify as well as we could within the language of the resolution that those areas are in fact included. So it was at the request of the Corporation Counsel's office.
All right, anyone else want to comment? Grab a microphone.
I just have a question for you, Joe. So in the current shoreland ordinance, there's an exemption for zone towns. So with Kim's language, do those zone towns get included? The shoreland areas of the zone towns, do they get included or not included?
Any area that is covered by chapter 42, which does incorporate the shoreland areas in the county, would be included in the moratorium.
Even town of St. Croix Falls, their shoreland area.
any area that is covered by the regulatory authority of the county. So yes, the shoreland area within the city of St. Croix Falls would fall within that. Or sorry, the town of St. Croix Falls. I apologize. I misspoke.
So I,
Hold on a second here. Adam, are you good? All right, who would like to speak to it?
So I just want to call a point of order because I'm a little bit confused. I don't know if Supervisor Jarko is speaking as the Supervisor District 6 or if he is speaking as the attorney for the town of St. Croix Falls.
I would say that I cannot answer that point of order. Anyone else want to speak to the amendment? Supervisor Bonaprise, are you trying to get the floor?
Yeah, may I just
Go ahead.
request,
To the amendment.
may I just request a several voice vote on this?
On the amendment, you can. It's already been asked for the main motion that it be a roll call by voice. Any other discussion on the amendment?
I have a question of clarification. On line 3, we classify data center as any facility housed in one or more structures. I guess I'm wondering if the definition would include like a primary use. So like if for instance, a hospital is built, a lot of times hospitals have data centers. Is that permit going to get held up in the application process? And them not be able to do construction because of the data center not being included in that plan?
My interpretation of the language, it specifically states one or more structures that primarily contain computing and networking equipment. So it is a broad definition, and it goes on. Primarily contain is the crux of that definition. So it is broad in that it would cover a lot of different things. However, if the primary use of a structure is something else that is permittable, then generally that would not necessarily fall within this definition. It would be a case-by-case basis that would have to be assessed.
That answer your question? Anyone else wish to speak to the amendment? All right, just to the amendment to the motion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, signify by saying nay. Carries. All right, to the main motion. To the main motion, anyone else wish to speak to it? If not, we're gonna have a roll call vote by voice. Okay, hold on, someone wants to speak to it. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to all the folks who showed up tonight to give their input into this. It's been a long time since I've sat through a long public hearing. I used to sit through a lot of them when I was in the legislature, and it's always heartening to see people come out and express their opinion. The people in the audience will be disappointed to learn that I'm opposed to the moratorium. But I want to be clear from the start, my objection isn't that the moratorium goes too far or doesn't go far enough. My objection is it points us as a county in exactly the wrong direction, because everything this moratorium tries to stop is something Polk County should be working right now to responsibly welcome. And let me start with what this really is. A moratorium is just a pause. But you only pause something that's happening. And here in Polk County, nothing is happening. Look at our own zoning ordinance. In 10 of our 12 zoning districts, a data center is not listed as a permitted use or a conditional use. meaning in those districts, it is already flatly prohibited, cannot be built. In two more, the last two of the zoning districts, you'd have to squint hard and stretch the language just to argue that maybe, possibly, someone could apply for a conditional use permit. A weak argument in the industrial district, and a weaker one still in the commercial district. And if that gray area truly worried us, the honest fix is a one-paragraph ordinance amendment, not a year-long ban. So let's just call this what it is. We're being asked to solemnly prohibit what is, for all practical purposes, already prohibited in Polk County. This moratorium doesn't protect a single resident from a single thing that could actually happen tomorrow. It doesn't change the water, it doesn't change the power grid, it doesn't change one line of our land use rules that actually matter. What it changes, though, is the message. And that's the part that I think should worry every single one of us. Because the message doesn't stay inside of our zoning map. It travels to every site selector, every employer, every utility, every working family thinking about where to build a future reads the headline that says, Polk County just voted to ban an entire category of modern investment. And we can tell ourselves it only applies to the towns under county zoning. Now, some in the shoreline too. And then it doesn't apply in the villages and cities, and it doesn't apply to the unzoned towns, and it doesn't apply to the towns with their own zoning. But the rest of the world won't read that footnote. They'll read one word, closed. And here's why. I knew I could bring joy to you folks tonight. And here's what makes that indefensible.
Point of order. Mr. Jarkle should be addressing the board, not the group in this room.
Absolutely, yeah. Adam, keep your comments to the board.
And here's what makes that indefensible. The same county that spends more than $50,000 per year funding an economic development corporation whose entire mission is to bring businesses and jobs to Polk County now wants to hang a closed sign on Polk County. We cannot, with a straight face, write that check to the EDC on one page of the budget and hang a closed for business sign on the next. So if this board decides we're against development, then let's just be honest about it and stop paying an organization to go recruit it. I'll say it plainly. If this moratorium passes, I don't see how that I could, in good faith, vote to continue funding the EDC, because that would be spending real money to do a job this board just voted to undo. I'd rather we mean what we say and do what we say. Now let me turn to the concerns, because some of them, many of which were raised here tonight, are real, and they deserve a real answer, not a year of silence. Every one of them is something we can manage through a conditional use permit and a development agreement. So let's take them one at a time. Let's start with the water, because that's the one you hear about the most. I think the picture that we were painted here tonight and that people carry in their head are data centers pulling millions of gallons of water from our aquifers every single day. But that describes an older style of data center. The facilities being built today, including the large Microsoft campus in Racine County, Wisconsin, in Mount Pleasant, use a closed-loop, chip-level cooling system. The system is filled one time, and then it recirculates that same water.
Point of order.
What's your point?
My point is that this seems like it could be steering towards self-serving.
Who's speaking to the motion? Adam, we allow 5 minutes for a supervisor to speak, and then everyone else gets an opportunity. As long as he's speaking to the moratorium, you can speak.
The system is filled once and then it recirculates the same water over and over like the coolant in your car. Let's and that brings up an important point. The moratorium won't lead to a ban on data centers. It cannot. It will lead to permitting them in some way, shape, or form in Polk County. That's what the law requires, and that's how this story will end. In 1 year from now, assuming the moratorium passes, and I know that it will, the same board will pass amendments to the zoning ordinance, and those amendments will permit data centers as a conditional use in certain parts of Polk County. So if that's the end game, why send the signal now that we're closed for business? Why not instead make some simple ordinance revisions while working towards an open, transparent process that identifies potential sites for this kind of development?
How much more you got, Adam? We're not timing it, but we allow 5 minutes to speak.
I just have a couple more minutes.
All right, go ahead.
Here's the thing that I think we're missing in all of this as supervisors. We're missing the tax base. We're about to go into budget season and we're missing the potential tax base. And that's something that we should all sit up and take notice of. One of these facilities is among the most valuable things per acre that a county can host. Again, the one in Racine County, the Microsoft campus, provides millions of dollars in property taxes. Do you think, Mr. Chair, you could maybe control the audience a little bit?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't yell while they were talking. Could you keep them from yelling while I'm talking?
I'll try. Could we please we will ask to clear the place if we can't have a meeting here. I mean, this work conducting county board. We appreciate your enthusiasm, but please let us conduct our meeting. Adam, just try to finish your.
Hey, I sat through 2 hours and respectfully listened. I would think that 5 minutes we could have people respectfully listen. Think about what even a fraction of millions of dollars could mean for our county, for paving roads, for sheriff's deputies' cars, for equipment for our sheriff's deputies, the new school roof on our schools. That's what we're talking about saying no to here tonight. And keep in mind, if and when we say no, in 1 year from now, when we're sitting back at this table in the county boardroom, we will then be saying yes in one way, shape, or form. That is how this story will end. And so I feel like by voting for this moratorium, all we're saying to people is go away from a year, hopefully it calms down, and then we'll just get this passed. And I'm not comfortable with that, so I won't be voting in favor of the moratorium.
All right, anyone who hasn't spoken yet to the motion? Go ahead, Supervisor Duncanson.
I would just like to say, as a member of the Polk County Economic Development Corporation and a member of the Amory Economic Development Corporation, I think that this is, I respect everybody has a right to their opinion, but this is a gross misrepresentation. I think that Polk County is very attractive to data centers because we have a lot of water. We have the sales tax exemption for data centers as well. And they think that we're a bunch of country bumpkins where we have little regulation and they can come here and do whatever they want to do. And I think all the moratorium does is encourage responsible development. And responsible, credible developers don't have a problem with that at all. They're not looking, because they're not looking for a handout from the taxpayers in incentives.
Anyone else who hasn't spoken wish to speak to it? Supervisor Garvey?
I just have one question, and this is for corporate counsel in matters of Robert's Rules of Order. Is it proper order that supervisors state their position on how they're going to vote before the vote is called?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
And you can say if you support a motion or not. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion on the floor? If not, we're gonna do it a roll call voice vote.
So we already passed the amendment, so we are voting on the moratorium with those amendments now. So I will call everybody, please use your microphone to state yes or no. Make sure it's turned on. Brad Olson,
Yes.
Doug Rowdy,
Yes.
Jim Bethke,
Yes.
Pam Garvey,
Yes.
Scott Gilbertson,
Yes.
Adam Jarko,
No.
Sharon Kelly,
Yes.
Jeremy Hall,
Yes.
Kim O'Connell,
Yes.
Alice Morris, Jay Luke,
Yes.
Fran Duncanson,
Yes.
Keith Karpinski,
Yes.
John Bonaprise,
Yes.
Russ Arkand.
Yes.
Motion passes 14-1.
All right, the next resolution, let's take resolution C, 3026. Designating the month of August as National Emergency Management Awareness Month in Polk County.
I make the motion that we pass resolution 3026, resolution designating the month of August 2026 as National Emergency Management Awareness Month in Polk County. I'll second it.
All right, Jay was trying to make the motion, but I was hanging on to the microphone, so that's fine. We have a motion on the floor. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed signify by saying nay. Carries. All right, let's try D. Resolution concerning a petition to establish the Loveless Lake Protection and Rehabilitation District.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 3126.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Sorry, Chair, who was the second?
I think Jay. And again, I was holding the microphone.
Mr. Chair, just one thing on that resolution as it came through environmental services. Starting at line 98, where the county selects the Lake District Board, it fell in District 6. So Adam's name is there for the appointment for that position. If Adam can't do that position, we do have another one to put in its place. It would be Ed Barnes if Adam can't do that. So that'd be the only change to the resolution.
All right. Anyone else wish to speak to it? If not, we're gonna call the vote. All those in favor, say.
Is now the time to say I can't do it? Yes, I can't do it.
So, Chair, we would need a motion to amend line 99 to remove Supervisor Jarko's name and add Ed Barnes.
Someone like to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Actually, the amendment. If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, signify by saying nay. Carried. All right,
Sorry, Chair. just to the rest of the resolution, there are 4 appointments being made. 3 of the appointments are technically appointments by the county administrator pursuant to a discussion at Environmental Services wherein they recommended the 3 appointments. The administrator acknowledged the recommendation of the Environmental Services Committee, and that's why those names are included in the resolution. They are not going to be again contemplated later under administrator appointments. By approving the resolution, you are approving the appointments of the county administrator. And then there is 1 appointment that is made by the full board. That is the appointment of Ed Barnes. And so again, by voting for the resolution, you are approving the board appointment of Ed Barnes to that commission.
Everyone understand that? Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, signify by saying nay.
Nay.
Motion carries. Let's do resolution E right away. The requesting Wisconsin counties provide equal and equitable voting. Resolution 3226.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, is this on?
Just hold it a little closer.
How about now? Okay. Yeah, I brought this resolution forward after sitting on the steering committee for WCA and noticing that multiple counties have multiple members on that committee and they all get a single vote. In the Ag and Environment Committee, there's 18 counties represented with 24 votes. 2 counties have 3, 2 counties have 2, the rest of us have 1. This simply asks that the Counties Association look at it and go to a 1 vote per county, giving us all equal say in whatever steering committee is. And having spoken with Ms. Kelly, it is the same on the ones she sits on. And in fact, some of them have 4 from 1 county on a steering committee. So simply asking the Counties Association to look at us and give us equal voting power from every county that's represented on their steering committees.
Go ahead.
I'm also on that steering committee, and this has been a long time inequity. And we need to get full representation to the Wisconsin County Association.
Anyone else care to speak? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, signify by saying nay. Carries. All right, we're gonna go to resolution 826, the resolution amending the Polk County Code of Ordinance, Chapter 42, Article 2, Shoreline. Anyone want to move on it?
Mr. Chair, motion to send it back to committee.
Got a motion to refer it back to committee. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I would like to know specific why. Why would we start over again or what? I guess give us something.
So I guess you had the public hearing 3-4 months ago. There was a lot of individuals there concerned about tourist rooming houses. And at that point, they were in my estimation, promised a hearing with the Environmental Services Committee to go over some of their concerns. Not saying if anything would change or not. I would also say, being one of the 8 towns that has their own zoning or is unzoned, what work has been done by the committee, not necessarily the committee, but staff or Corporation Council to reach out to those 8 towns and see if there's a way to come to an agreement, rather than just trying to say, hey, we don't care what you think. We have to realize 1/3 of the towns in this county are not in county zoning. I would say the heavy-handed not asking us is probably a good reason why 1/3 of the towns in this county are not in zoning. And I think it would be a benefit to everybody if those towns were reached out to and said, hey, what is your problem? What is your issues with this proposed zoning ordinance? But at least my town has never had that opportunity to speak to staff on the zoning side or on the corporation council side of that.
So with the fifth.
All right, hold on here. We're not going to have any discussion between two supervisors. If someone wants the floor, you'll get recognized and get your opportunity to speak.
Mr. Chair, may I address this issue?
Go ahead.
I represent District 15, Town of Farmington, and we also are one of the townships that are not in Polk County zoning, and we would like to be in agreement with the zoning department on this. And I agree that I think with further discussion and good points on both sides, I think the towns that are not in Polk County zoning, I think we could all come to agreement. And I think as a county and the zoning department, that should be the goal. Not just to have two sides, but to have a total agreement where we can move ahead. And I appreciate sending that back to committee.
All right, anyone else wish to speak to we got a couple hands up and Supervisor Garvey's been, I think, first. Go ahead.
Couple points. One, the committee has spent 18 months working on this. We have gone and taken feedback from contractors and landscapers and individuals and implemented into this. And we have had hearings. And I guess I would question the fact that when the people that came to that discussion and talked about VRBOs, they were very clearly misled about what that meeting was to be about, because VRBOs were never part of the amendment process. As far as the rules hadn't changed, the rules had been in place and the rules hadn't changed, but they were social media, we will say, led them to believe that suddenly rules had changed. So I do know there's been some discussion and I myself have had some discussion with some of the people with VRBO concerns. And it is something that we are taking into consider. We will be addressing. In the meantime, we have some language that needs to be taken care of. In addition, I have actually talked to town board chairs that are represented, that are unzoned. And I also have reviewed some of the town board minutes and realized that some of the information they were also presented was incorrect. In fact, when I talked to the town board chair, I asked him specifically, what has changed? And his first comment was, well, bunkhouses have changed. I said, no, they haven't. What else has changed? And his answer was, I don't really know. So as reading the town board minutes, I also noticed that they were provided information that the Environmental Service Committee had changed all these rules in regard to zoning district overlays, which also was incorrect information because these overlays have been in place for years. So I guess I strongly encourage that this board go forward with letting this amendment go forward, not going back to committee, that we have worked on it for 18 months, that we have made adjustments, that contractors are happy with, that landscapers have requested, that individuals are looking and waiting for some of these changes, including some of the ADA recommendations that are in this revision, so people can go forward with their amendments, or with their changes to their buildings. The towns with their own zoning are exempt. It is currently in there. Towns with their own zoning are exempt. As I said, I have talked to one of the town boards that are not in zone, that are not zoned. We also have a very strong letter from the Bone Lake Rehabilitation District that is very strong support of what we've put forward, and they are mostly part of Georgetown, which is an unzoned town as well. So again, I strongly encourage this board to consider passing this through. And one final note, I will say, we've had attorneys talk about the legality of this, but please, I would like to remind you that Anders Hellquist also wrote a letter of support of the Jarko petition, which was just unanimously denied by both the Environmental Services Committee and this board for the incredible lack of information in it and the gutting of that ordinance.
Let's stay on task here. Go ahead, Karpinski.
I'd just like to say, we should look at this as two separate issues. Removing the zoning districts, the general zoning districts, as a separate issue. We should vote on what's in front of us here tonight. Some very easy changes, some redefinitions requested by contractors, requested by a lot of lake people. They've worked on it for 18 months. We've got something in front of us to vote on. We can work, if we choose to do so, to remove the zoning districts from this at a future point. This is what's in front of us. I think this is what we should be voting on tonight.
Anyone else who hasn't spoken? Supervisor Rowdy?
Yes, I would just question, why at this date do the towns that are unzoned sit and come here and say, we need to go back and have a discussion? Why weren't they there at all the meetings we had? It seems like even if they talked on public comments, I don't care how they got there, they could make their discussions. And at this point, what is the point of saying, oh, we better hold this up again?
Hasn't spoken? Well, we got two hands up here, so.
I'll make one comment. I've heard a couple of times people saying we've spent 18 months on this, like that's a good thing. It shouldn't have taken us 18 months to get to where we're at. It's ridiculous how long this process has taken. And it's cost the county a lot of money. It's cost a lot of irritation for contractors and landscapers, et cetera. It should never have taken 18 months to get to where we're at. It's ridiculous.
So, all right, go ahead, Adam.
Thank you. I think we should send it back to committee. We've had the extraordinary situation that's not new now. That's been going on for 6 or 8 months, that we have 7 towns that have engaged council and begged for an opportunity to sit down and work through this, and they haven't had that opportunity. That council was here again tonight saying, hey, if you pass this, we will litigate this. Whether we win, lose, or draw is beside the point. Asking towns to spend valuable resources that they could spend on roads and fire departments, litigating against the county seems silly. Let's sit down with the towns, talk it through, work it through with them, and make this make sense. And the reason that it came up is because the original draft that came out stripped the exemption out for those towns that have their own zoning. And it took quite a long time before that finally went back in and went back out and went back in. And it's been tough for towns, I think, to follow. It's been tough for me to follow that process of what's in and what's out. It's hard to see exactly what the changes have been. And one of the, I think, major concerns of towns that we should listen to is the reason, as I understand it, that it was originally stripped out, the exemption, is because when it went to DNR, they said, oh, you can't have that exemption. So when we pass this, if we pass this and it goes to DNR to approve, and they come back and I assume say something similar, you can't have that exemption, then is it going to get stripped out again? I think that's why the towns right now feel like they want to have some certainty and clarity on this issue, which is just remove those district provisions. The only reason that we have those district provisions, I actually compared them They say the exact same thing in the shoreland provisions as in the general zoning provisions. The only reason that you would do that is so that you can try to gobble up those towns that have their own zoning or are unzoned. And that's what makes them, I think, so offensive to so many towns. So my view is, let's listen to the towns, let's listen to these town chairmen who have said this is a problem. Let's sit down at the table and negotiate. We're in no big rush here. And let's get this right, and don't force towns to litigate against the county.
All right, anyone who hasn't spoken to the motion? Supervisor Duncanson?
Yes, I would just like to say, this is a situation where it appears there's conflicting legal points of view on this issue. So I believe that within a year and a half that there has been ample opportunity for anyone who is interested to have input into this situation. I don't think that we should make a decision based upon threats and bullies that we're going to get sued, because no one wants to get sued. I don't want to see the county get sued, but that's not our decision. That decision is up to the towns.
Anyone else who hasn't spoken? If not, we're gonna call a vote. How would you? I feel a split vote coming. How would you like the vote taken?
Point of order. I would like to call for a roll call vote by voice.
All right, we'll have a roll call vote by voice.
Okay, so remember the motion made on the floor. Oh, do you want to go?
Go ahead, you're gonna tell them what they're.
Yeah, the motion made on the floor was to refer 0826, the amending the Polk County Code of Ordinances, back to committee. So a yes vote is referring it back to committee. A no vote is passing. I guess we would have to have. We'd have to have another motion at
Taking
that
up
point.
the ordinance tonight or the resolution tonight.
Okay, everybody.
Yes is back to committee. No is on the floor tonight.
Okay, so Doug Rowdy,
Probably should grab a microphone if they're going close to you.
Jim Bethke,
No.
Pam Garvey, Scott Gilbertson,
Yes.
Adam Jarko,
Yes.
Sharon Kelly,
Yes.
Jeremy Hall,
Yes.
Kim O'Connell,
No.
Alice Morris,
Yes.
Jay Luke,
No.
Fran Duncanson, Keith Karpinski,
No.
John Bonaprise,
Yes.
and Russ Arkan.
What's the vote at? Do I have to vote?
Madam Clerk, you want to ask me?
Yeah, we'll ask Supervisor Olson first. Supervisor Olson.
Yes.
Okay. It is currently tied. Supervisor or Chair Arkan, you will have the tiebreaker vote.
Yes.
That is 8 to 7 yeses to refer it back to committee.
All right, our next one, this should be an easy one here. The master fee schedule, resolution 3326. And we did ask if anyone had any questions or any concerns to get a hold of the administrator prior to tonight, so I trust everyone got their questions answered. Anyone want to move on resolution 3326?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
Chair, just a brief comment from Corporation Counsel. The fee schedule passed last year is, in my opinion, only effective for the 2026 budget, meaning that some fee schedule, not necessarily this fee schedule, but some fee schedule needs to get passed by the board at some point. So I want to make that clear that if this doesn't pass for whatever reason, that either make amendments to it if you have a specific concern related to it tonight, or a different resolution with a fee schedule is going to have to come forward and get passed prior to the budget getting passed. Otherwise, the county will arguably have no effective fees, which could be considerably problematic.
All right, any discussion? The motion is to adopt. Any discussion? I don't know that it's gonna be, we'll try it. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed signify by saying nay. Carries. All right, resolution 3426. Who wants to speak to that?
I can, Mr. Chair. This is the obligation, the loan that was passed for the 2026 budget back in November for highway projects, the IT upgrade for courtroom 3, 9 squad cars, and the HVAC boiler project and controls for the Justice Center. We do not do this at the beginning of the year. We don't want to pay interest. We went out to a local bank and got the loan from a local bank. And again, this mechanism is used in our budget is one of the things the state lets us do. By borrowing this money, it does not increase the levy. It keeps the levy flat and stable and allows us to do these projects. But again, these projects were approved for spending last November by the board. And this is just the execution of where we're going to get that money from.
Mr. Chair, I move to bring it to the floor for adoption.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I have a quick question for Mo. Which bank?
First Resource.
Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, signify by saying nay. Lot of late votes coming in here, so let's do a roll call by voice.
So the motion on the floor is to approve resolution 3426 for that promissory note. So a yes is adoption of that, and then a nay or a no is to not adopt that. We start with Jim Bethke. Please use your microphones if you can.
Yeah.
Pam Garvey,
Yes.
Scott Gilbertson, Adam Jarko, Sharon Kelly,
Yes.
Jeremy Hall,
No.
Kim O'Connell,
Yes.
Alice Morris, Jay Luke,
Yes.
Francis Duncanson,
Yes.
Keith Karpinski,
Yes.
John Bonaprise,
Yes.
Brad Olson,
No.
and Doug Rowdy.
Yes.
It's currently 10-4. Would you still like to cast your vote, Chair Arcan?
Yes.
Yes was the vote, or yes, you'd like to cast it.
Either way, it's yes.
Right, so it's 11-4. It passes.
All right, next, that brings us to district zoning, or to amend a zoning district map for the town of Alden.
I'll move to approve.
Got a motion on the floor. Anyone wish to speak to it? Arnold, you gonna speak to it? No issues? Anyone else wish to speak to it?
What it really was is it's a scrapyard, has been for 60 years, and they needed to change zoning from Ag Res 5 to Ag Res 10. or Ag 10, I'm sorry. Only because of the change in our conditional use permit rules, and it wasn't allowed under Ag Res 5, so they needed to rezone, not changing their business in any way.
Anyone else wish to speak? It could require a voice vote, so we'll have it that way. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed signify by saying nay. Carries. All right, how about resolution 2726? Requiring leadership to be present during normal county business hours.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion on the floor and a second. Anyone wish to speak to it? Holy smokes. One at a time. All three hands are up at the same time, so Mayor will just take them in the order they're sitting. Supervisor Duncanson.
So this advanced to the county board on a split vote by the executive committee. Mr. Chair, I would just like to note that this type of idea is pretty outdated for salary exempt employees, as well as any professional. I don't know that it's reasonable for the public to expect to see someone on demand. I can't see my doctor on demand. I can't see my attorney on demand. That's what appointments are for. I think that administration is rarely available anytime we need them. They have always responded. Unless someone here has had a different experience where administration has not responded to them, I've called administration and division directors even on weekends and have responded. Also, so how does vacation fit into this, or sick, or a day off? Under a policy like this, I'm going to use myself for an example. The 2016 presidential election, I worked 21 hours that day. So under a resolution like this, I wouldn't even get to take a day off. So that is my thoughts on it.
I guess I just have a couple of quick comments on this. I think it is concerning that we have an executive committee that does not recommend this and that it was brought by a different supervisor. And to my knowledge, I have not heard of specific issues in regards to kind of the current status of our administration as well as department leadership. And so I feel like it is it's a wrong direction for this board to consider this. Again, the executive committee their role is to kind of guide administration and then come back to the board as far as what that role is. And the fact that the committee did not recommend it, I think speaks volumes. Thank you.
I just want to be very clear that I am not mentioning that in any way that I'm saying we should have an amendment for this resolution. I'm saying if you want to get really picky, which it says right here, during county business hours, well, are we going to come down to what are they? Are we going to put a time clock in so that we know what time these people come to work, what time they take a break, what time they go home? Because how else is it going to be monitored? This is just about the silliest thing I've ever seen. So thank you.
Anyone who hasn't spoken wish to speak to the motion? Go ahead, Adam.
I think this is a reasonable, common sense approach. I spend much of my life, my professional life, working with highly paid executives of companies, and they're expected to be there in their employment contracts during regular business hours, actually oftentimes a lot more, 5 days a week. I think most of that's the way most of the professional world functions. So it just seems like common sense to protect taxpayers to pass something like this.
Anyone who hasn't spoken wish to speak?
Can I say something, Mr. Chair?
Oh, go ahead. I couldn't tell who was, go ahead.
Sure. I think it's trying to solve a problem that's not there. My schedule, as it points to me, is, yes, during the summertime and that, I try to work a condensed schedule. And condensed to me is, it's more reflective of what I'm doing. I'm in the office at between 5:30 and 6 o'clock every morning. So I put down 10 hours Monday through Thursday. And then on Friday, I'm on my computer when I get up in the morning. On my computer at 10 o'clock, I'm on my computer at that. I'm on the phone with my division directors in the morning. I'm taking phone calls from supervisors on a Friday. If a meeting's scheduled on a Friday, which they were for several things with Mr. Olson, a couple of meetings with crisis centers, I come in on a Friday and I do that. It all depends on my schedule, but I'm flexible and when I'm there, but it's more reflective of when I'm there. So it's solving a problem that's really not there. People can get a hold of me. I took the last week of July off on vacation, and I willingly took supervisor phone calls, whether it's text late at night or calls. Had my wife pause there as she had her cocktail, and I walked outside for 20 minutes and spoke gladly. And I enjoy doing it because I like the county and do that. So I am available. I have not heard of any problem with staff getting a hold of me or my division directors or department heads. So that's just my 2 thoughts.
What else hasn't spoken? Brad? What's your point?
I'd like to call for a roll call vote by voice, please.
All right, when we get to that point, go ahead, Brad.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I think it's commendable that Mr. Norby shows up at 5:30 in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning on Monday through Thursday. I guess, but who is he overseeing at 5:30 in the morning? Staff does not come in until 8 o'clock in the morning. I know for a fact that Mr.
Point of order here, Mr. Rosso. I'm very uncomfortable with this discussion, veering into the territory of discussing a particular individual employee in an open session. If you're going to talk about a specific individual employee, in my opinion, it would be more appropriate for liability purposes of the county that it would be discussed in a closed session. Mr. Lawson, what do you think?
I'll change my comment.
Go ahead, Brad, just keep it to the motion.
So I think if our administrator can work 4 days a week, then all of our staff should be allowed that as well. I mean, if as a county, if we think being open 4/10s is okay, and then having staff available by phone on Fridays, I'm perfectly fine with that. I just want, and I hope that the option is the same for every employee across Polk County. Thank you.
Anyone who hasn't spoken to the motion wish to speak? Hold on. Luke's got the floor.
I've gone through this before. We hire an administrator. We went into this type of government by choice because the other forms of government that were available to us in this setting as a county were not acceptable at all by any stretch of the imagination. We experienced, after we chose to use an administrator to help us run our government, particularly in a financial. We run a balanced budget. We have gained immensely in our financial condition. In the last few years, we had an experience where the county board, particularly one member at that situation, made an attempt to start, running our government. Micromanaging is called in many instances. And that we start with one issue. And it's not long that someone else isn't satisfied with another particular issue. It cost us thousands of dollars when we made this attempt before. The administrator walked out and we were sued as a result of the contract. We lost a lot of money. I don't want anything to do with micromanaging. As long as the county is running fine, we can hypothetically come up with all kinds of scenarios that would probably not adhere to our interests, but our interest should be what the county looks like. We are doing exceptionally well compared to other areas. That's all I have to say. I'm totally against such a move.
Anyone else wish to speak that hasn't spoken yet?
Mr. Chair.
You should be sure to shut your mic off if you're not speaking. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I represent District 15, the town of Farmington, and all our employees, they work 4/10s, but they're all the rest of the time 24/7. They're on call, and Jay, I got it back. Every word he said. We're the only two that years and years ago were here when our administrator resigned from micromanagement. And I know the figure that was settled at the Supreme Court in Wisconsin. And it cost Polk County multi dollars. Let's not let it happen again.
Anyone else who hasn't spoken wish to speak to the
A point of order. I think that we should all wait until Supervisor Hall is done texting on his phone.
Are you done? All right. Anyone who hasn't spoken to the motion wish to speak? All right, they're asking for well, it was already asked for a roll call voice vote on it.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is to approve resolution 2726, requiring leadership to be present. A vote yes, it approves it, and nay does not approve it.
Everyone understand what they're voting on?
Pam Garvey?
Oh.
Scott Gilbertson?
Yes.
Adam Jarko?
Yes.
Sharon Kelly?
Yes.
Jeremy Hall?
Yes.
Kim O'Connell?
No.
Alice Morris?
Yes.
Jay Luke? Fran Duncanson? Keith Karpinski?
No.
John Bonaprise? Brad Olson? Doug Rowdy?
No.
Jim Bethke? I currently have 6 yeses and 8 nos. Chair, would you like to vote on it?
No.
No, you'd not like to vote, or no is your vote?
Both. All right, the motion fails. Confirmations made by the county board chairperson. I don't have any appointments. How about the confirmation appointments made by the county administrator?
I have no appointments tonight, Mr. Chair.
All right. Would you like a county board chairperson's report, or have you had enough tonight? He says it's short. I did get to a conference, chair conference, and I was supposed to learn how to run meetings and control crowds and do it all, but I might have to go get a refresher course on it, but otherwise, I'm gonna try to get down to Wisconsin counties if I get signed up for it and see if I can pick up any more hot tips, but. All right, how about the county administrator? You have a report?
Yes, Mr. Chair, really quick, sales tax was down in June, 12%. District 2 Appeals Court upheld Act 10, overturning Dane County's decision on that one. So we're waiting to see if that's going to go to the Wisconsin Supreme Court. A new project on State Highway 87 is starting in St. Croix Falls from Highway 8 to Minnesota Street. We have a new IT director, Robert Hernandez, started the 17th, Monday. The Osceola Medical Center has got an approved application for a crisis care facility. So that's great news. They are working to get certified now. We have one more application from Polk County in there. We're waiting on the status of that. We have a treatment court graduation September 4th of Jamie Ostendorf. Treatment court starts at 8:30. The graduation is at 10 a.m. if you have a chance to go. And also from the health department, measles counts have increased to 36 confirmed. 3 since last week in Wisconsin. The outbreak now involves Grant County, Iowa County, and Lafayette counties. Polk County's MRR vaccination rate for 20-month-old is 73.9%. 6 to 18-year-olds is 78%. They want to see that get to 90%, so they're encouraging people to talk to their primary care provider on their immunization status. And that's my report tonight. Thank you.
So Mo, is our sales tax still up for the year? Do you know?
Yes, Mr. Olson, sales tax for the year is still up 3.8%. So we're still in the positive.
Anyone else have a question for the administrator?
I was able to attend a land and water tour that Land and Water did with several other counties. And it was really interesting to see some of the projects that they've worked on. They did really I told Sarah they did a great job, that crew, doing the presentations and taking everybody through. It was 90-some degrees outside, but it was worth going and worth seeing some of the things that we've put taxpayers' money into in the county and how it's turned out. Everything from robots milking cows to land, lake quality projects. So it was very interesting. If you get a chance to go sometime when they do one, it's worth it.
All right, anyone else have a report?
I got one.
Holy, so hold on, we got 3 hands up at the same time. Let's, are you done, Sharon?
No, I thought.
Oh, you're just getting started?
Yeah. At the West Central Wisconsin Regional Planning, we talked a lot about data centers today. They're working on they're going to put together a day-long seminar. It's going to be held the end of September for elected officials and county and town boards around, and they're going to have various speakers come in and speak about data centers because like we said, none of us have ever been to one. We don't know a lot about it, but this is set up to really help us with our knowledge of what does it mean when we talk about water and we talk about this and talk about that on data centers. So as soon as that information gets finalized, it's going to be the last week in September. I'll get that to Mo so we can get it out to everybody because it's going to, I think it's going to be down in either Eau Claire or Menominee, but it'd be a day-long session. And it looks very interesting. I've seen the draft of of the agenda, and it looks very informative, and so just I'll keep you posted.
All right, there was still a couple of hands up. Johnny had his hand up, and let's take Kim O'Connell. Go ahead, give us your report.
I'm gonna start smoking again so we can get a break. We don't have to sit here 3 hours. How's that?
Has it been that long? What do you got, Johnny?
I just want to sincerely thank from the bottom of my heart for the cards and wishes and prayers. Just a month ago today, before I came to the meeting, I ate a carton of poison lettuce, and it spread to cellulitis and sepsis, and I was 2 weeks in the hospital with 3 IVs, and somehow devil knocked on the door, but all the prayers, the good Lord says, leave me alone. And tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, I will be in Abbott Northwestern Hospital. So thanks again. God bless all you good folks.
Anyone else have a report? Anyone else? If not, we got one item to go.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Got a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Carries. We'll stand adjourned at 8:16.